there is this amazing, I love it, this North American saying, people in the US, they say this phrase that I love, that is, the angrier I am, the more assholes I meet. I mean, if you are concentrated, in this bad mood, and this, of course, bad things will happen to you all day long. I mean, and this is what you were just saying. I mean, if you can't achieve something because it's too big, you only have to get a team and the resources you have to, to put together to create it. But the important thing is, will you allow yourself to, to put the first step on the direction that you want to go? Because that's where everything starts. Or you keep in the fear that you won't be able to achieve it, and that everything will go wrong, and you don't start anything, never.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamas, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Hello and welcome to episode 207 of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. If you are a stroke survivor with a story to share about your experience with stroke and you have been thinking about reaching out to be a guest on the show, but were waiting for the right time to reach out, this is it, guys. If you go to recoveryafterstroke.com/contact, you'll find a form that you can fill out to apply to be a guest on the show. There isn't much to do with regards to the application. Basically, you have to be a stroke survivor or care for somebody who's a stroke survivor or be somebody that helps other stroke survivors. So not much to do to qualify. As soon as I receive the request, I will respond with more details on how you can choose a time that works for you so that we can meet over Zoom at a time that's convenient for both of us. My guest today is Rodrigo Sanmar, a film creator and hemorrhagic stroke survivor at the age of 28. Rodrigo is my first guest living in Mexico, and I'm so excited that the podcast has been able to reach so many different countries around the world. And so far, we have been listened to in 68 countries. It is absolutely amazing. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. It is so amazing, and I really appreciate it, and I just can't believe it. Anyhow, now it's on with the show. Rodrigo Sanmar, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Man, thank you for being on the podcast all the way from Mexico. It's the first time I've had somebody from Mexico on my podcast.
How nice.
It's very nice, actually, because that's amazing how the podcast goes all around the world, and all the people that I interview are stroke survivors or helping a stroke survivor in some way, shape, or form. And that's the unfortunate thing, is stroke does not discriminate. It goes to every part of the world, every kind of person, every nationality, doesn't matter. And unfortunately, there's too many of us, but at least it has brought us together. Tell me a little bit about what has happened to you.
Thank you. I suffered from a brain hemorrhage when I was 28 years old. I was living in a, how can I say this? Like, I was on a rat race, on a rat wheel, running faster than I could, but not knowing where I was going. And I was, I can say this now to you, I was completely lost, even though at that time I wasn't aware of that. Not myself, but not everyone around me, my friends, my family, everybody was like completely shocked when they realized what I was going through, because it exploded as a stroke, as a hemorrhage, because I was, working really hard, making a lot of noise around my life, not to listen the real thing inside me, and not to, stop taking the time to stop and realizing where I wanted to go, or what I was doing. Even I'm a filmmaker, and I was creating a film at that moment about freedom of speech in Mexico, about violence against journalists and activists. And I was traveling all around the country, and I was at the same time, I was running an advertising company, and I was also trying to lift an association to help people who was living in the area of a dump yard. So, you know, I was trying to fix the world, everything at the same moment, and plus, I was not having good. How to say this, food habits. I mean, I was eating really bad, sleeping really bad, or sometimes not even sleeping, you know, the amount of sleep minimum. And everything was more important than myself, my girlfriend, my friends, my job, my community. Everything was first, and I was the last in my list.
Yeah, it sounds very common. Very common from stroke survivors to say something similar to you. At 28 years old, not many 28-year-olds are interested in so many serious topics, and they're not really going after making a big difference in the world. How did you get to the point to be so concerned and so interested about topics like freedom of speech?
I think I have always been like that. I at that moment, as I was mentioning, I was trying to fix everything around me. I mean, we produced that same year. I mean, it was 2012, and that year I was, you know, with this association with the advertising company, and I was also making the design for the G20 who happened in Mexico that year. And you know, I was trying to eat the whole world in one bite. And in my film company, I one of my closest friends was working for Article 19, which is an international association, NGO, for freedom of speech. And they realized that in Mexico there was a huge growing problem in freedom of speech, not only from the crime people, but also from the government, which was even worse, you know, for the journalists. And I was like, yeah, we have to say, we have to share this story. We have to, you know, give voice to the journalists that have no voice, or they're gone, or their families are, you know, crying and worried. So I was inspired by that, but I went like deep down in the problem, and I was like very close contact with violence and with people in the government doing really bad things. So suddenly it wasn't only like a huge amount of work, but also being, you know, a little worried about my team, and, you know, and the people who were working on the documentary. And as I was mentioning, plus not taking really care of myself. I mean, not eating well, not sleeping well, going to party after all the work during the day instead of going to bed, you know, and drinking alcohol, you know, to calm all that noise that came from the outside. So that delivered me to, you know, to my brain not being able to handle the whole situation. Yeah. And I suddenly I woke up in a hospital bed after 16 days in coma, and not knowing what happened at all. And I was completely paralyzed from my left side of my body. And then, well, the doctor explained me, like, okay, you were about to die. I need you to be really calm down. You are safe now, but I need your brain to calm down, to not be in a rush right now, because it needs healing and peace now. But it's funny because before the stroke, I thought that if I missed a day in the office, the world could fall apart, right? That if I wasn't there, everything else wouldn't work. And it's suddenly I realized that it wasn't that way. I mean, I was 2 full weeks in the hospital in a coma, and the world kept going around, you know. So
I had a similar experience. I thought that I was the only one that could do the work that I was doing properly or as good as me. Nobody else could do it. I couldn't replace myself because my customers always wanted to see me, and I couldn't find people. It was too hard. There was so many not true stories that I was telling myself about why I couldn't replace myself before the stroke and why I couldn't do the work to find the right person to give me some time off and some rest. So I'm not working 6 and 7 days a week. So I'm not working 16 hours a day. And then I was in hospital and I wasn't allowed to go back to work for a minimum of, at the beginning, it was a minimum of 6 weeks, but then all the brain hemorrhages that I had happened over 3 years. So for 3 years, I was in and out of work all the time. And I found people to do the work. My turnover increased. We were busier than ever. And I was hardly ever at work. I was doing it from home. And it's the one thing that made me realize the stories I was telling myself was all just not true, just bullshit that I was making up. And I think I thought I was more important than I actually was at work.
I get it.
But I was 37 years old and I had started my business when I was, say, 26 or 27. You know, so I did put a lot of hard work into getting there and becoming somewhat successful, and then being able to support my family was starting to happen. All these things were happening, but I was a pretty, like you, tired, angry, didn't sleep enough, didn't eat well, worked too much, never did things that I enjoyed, that I loved, always had problems at work. So fixing them was always a hassle. It was such a all-consuming situation. And it just changed overnight when I had the brain hemorrhage as well. Mine was from an AVM that I was born with, that burst. And then while I was in hospital, everyone who I thought wasn't capable of stepping up to help out stepped up, and they did an amazing job. And all I had to do was give them the opportunity, but I never knew that that's what I had to do. The opportunity was created when I was in hospital and I couldn't go to work, and we had work to do, and my clients still wanted us to do it. Even if I wasn't there, they still wanted the work done. So
Of course.
it's interesting. How big was the team that you were leading?
It wasn't that big because we, as a film company, we grew with the project and we got small with no project. So we weren't that big, but we were a little bigger than usual because we were making this documentary film, which was like a big thing. I mean, big budget, big interest, and it's amazing. I mean, just listening to you right now, it's almost unbelievable that we can't realize this without having this stroke. I mean, this hit. I mean, it's always there, but we live in an illusion that we are, the only one who can do the job, or nobody else can do it the way I do it, or the world will fall apart if I don't step in the office one day. I mean, one day. It's almost, I mean, now I can see it, but in the moment, you're like stuck in the work, and you can't have perspective.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
true.
And I suppose you went through similar things, but I'm so thankful that I went through that experience because it completely opened my perspective, and it gave me like this connection with myself to be able to know that I'm even bigger if I'm not working that hard. I mean, I can create even more things if I open myself and I give job to another people, and I allow people to do things, and I trust people to create things, and I only direct them or supervise them. But it's I laugh, but it's really sad that you can't realize that in that moment.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And what I learned was that you actually have to get good at replacing yourself. You have to start moving away from the business and working on the business, not in the business. And the more you work in the business, the more it can grow, and you can bring people and give them the opportunity to step up and to take more responsibility, to earn more money, to work more. And then you can free yourself to do the things that you need to do. For me, what I really needed to do was get clients. My job was then how to get more clients, to do more work so I can employ more people so that we can grow the business and it can offer better services or more services, charge more money, whatever the situation was. But when I was in the business and doing all the work, every aspect, quoting, working, picking up materials, meeting clients, doing everything. When I was doing all of that, I was missing opportunities that were there because I didn't actually have the resources to help out in other areas when people contacted me and said, we need you to come and potentially do this work for us. So I was always missing out on opportunities, thinking that I was stuck inside the business simply because I was too afraid to allow other people to take responsibility and step up and do some of the jobs that I was going to do. And what was
Absolutely.
interesting, after the stroke, I became really into personal development, and I had more time than ever to go to courses, to go and meet new people, to get coaching, to get counseling, to get all these things that I didn't know were possible before. All of a sudden, I was unwell, recovering from 3 brain hemorrhages, recovering from brain surgery, but I had time to run a business. I had time to get personal development training. I had time to see my counselor. I had time to do all these things. Before, I had none. It was ridiculous.
It's unbelievable how mindsets can change your whole world. I mean, and that's one of the blessings we have with these strokes we experience, because it gives you, in my case, I suppose you share some things as well, but it's a completely whole different perspective. I mean, I was worried all the time, worry all the time for the, for the things that had to be done, and for things that wouldn't even happen. I mean, imagining things that could happen, and when I woke up in a hospital bed, and the doctors told me, like, dude, you were really about to die. It was like everything that was worrying you in the future and these things that takes your sleep away doesn't even happen. I mean, you were about to die, and those things were an illusion. I mean, they were never supposed to happen, and you were spending your whole day worrying about nothing. I mean, things that couldn't even happen. I mean, that's why I feel very thankful for the experience I had. I mean, at the moment it was very hard, especially for my family, because I was in a coma. But for my family, it was really hard because they were day by day, like fighting the circumstances and dealing with the fact that I could probably not waking up the next day. So for me, when I came back, it was like a rush of happiness and consciousness and love, and it was like an orgasm for me when I came back from the coma. I was like, I can't believe how peaceful I can feel now. I mean, it was like a baggage relief, from years and years of being holding on to things that didn't even matter to me, and now I want. I mean, I'm very thankful with you, not only for this space to chat with me, but also for creating this podcast that will share so many insights and wisdom from the people who went through these things. Because I'm convinced that we don't have to get to that point, to realize and to wake up to the lives that we have now.
I'm convinced too. It's possible to get there before we had a stroke or a bleed in the brain and nearly died. It's something dramatic has to happen to change for people to do that. And I'm not sure what it would have been for me. This is the weird thing is sometimes people ask me about the stroke and they ask me, with all the things that I'm doing, would I change anything, etc. I would definitely not want to have a stroke. But if I didn't have it and survive it and then go through all the trouble of rehabilitation, learning how to walk again, brain surgery, recovery, if I didn't go through all of that, maybe I would have been 10 years down and something more dramatic would have happened. My health would have been less looked after. I would have been more unhealthy and I would have died from a heart attack or something else. And I don't know if I could have had any lessons that were as dramatic as the stroke that would have woken me up before I got sick, you know? It's
Yes.
really difficult for me to put myself in a position with the kind of mentality that I had, the kind of uh, negative mindset that I had, whether or not I would have got to a situation in my life and a light would have come up, gone on, and it would have said, it's time for you to change, Bill, before things get worse. I think I'm so, in the past, I was so thick that something really hard had to happen for me to actually wake up. I think that's the only way that I would have woken up. So I'm grateful for it, as well as preferred not to have it. Absolutely.
I'm completely agree with you, and I have thought about this so many times, because you have to put in the balance what you gain and what you lose, you know, from before and after. And in my case, as I was telling to you, I'm very, very thankful for having went through that experience. I also tell so many people that I would love for so many people would be able to go through an experience as I did, but only the good part. I mean, of course, I don't want everyone to have a stroke and to have 2 weeks in a coma and a hospital and people suffering. Of course not. But I would definitely would love to. Everyone could have access to the connection I have now with myself after the stroke. I mean, as you were saying, I mean, it's better if you don't have it. But in my case, in the analogy that you were making earlier, in my case, what would have happened if I wouldn't have the stroke? It would be really, really terrible, because I would have spent the rest of my life sleeping as I was before my stroke, and I wouldn't change it I mean, there's no chance I would like to go back to who I was before the stroke. I don't know if I'm telling this right, or you get it, you know?
Perfectly, man. Perfect. I'm curious, right? So right now, I think there's a bit of a situation in the world, the entire planet, all the countries in the world where freedom of speech is under attack. I feel like we are being censored by governments. We're being censored by social media giants. We're being censored by corporations and a whole bunch of different people, including and of course I'm referring to the last 2 years, the COVID breakout, outbreak, and all the things that we could and couldn't say, all the things that were being controlled in Melbourne, in Australia, where I'm from. We were in lockdown for 2 years, 2 entire years. We were in lockdown, and this situation has become crazier in the last 2 years than I ever remember in my life. So right now, how are you still passionate about the fact that we still have these issues in society, like freedom of speech? And are you as motivated as you used to be to raise awareness in that space, or are you doing other things?
What a beautiful question. I definitely don't want to go so close to the violence as I did with that documentary film that I was making when I had the stroke. I mean, it wasn't only that. It wasn't only the documentary. It was a bunch of things that were happening that year. As I was mentioning, I was trying to do everything in 2012, and in the result, I burned myself, literally. But I'm still passionate about telling stories. I'm still passionate about making films. I love it. And I'm still very, very passionate about impacting or creating impact in people's lives. I mean, I do love to create messages that can transform people's life for the better. But the only things that I don't want to go film the violence and then put it in a film. I'm now writing fantasy and fiction and stories that I think that it can also create a huge impact, but not putting myself in the road that I was, because that definitely I can tell you that I don't want to keep going in that same way. But I do feel very passionate about keep telling, trying to wake people up. I mean, I don't want to sound show off or things like that, but I do think that there's a lot of people sleeping, and I also feel blessed to have this hit from reality, to be able to reconnect with myself, to be able to befriend myself again, and to reconnect and to give myself priority before everything and everyone else, and that takes me out of bed every morning.
I think, Rodrigo, you nailed it. You said exactly the right response. It was that there's still a way to tell stories without making yourself unwell in the process of developing that story and finding the information for that story and helping people to wake up, because that's what your documentary about freedom of speech does. It helps people to wake up. And it's not that you're more awake than they are. We're not talking about that. We're not saying that you're better than them. What we're saying is, let's bring some awareness to certain situations that maybe people need to know about, because the more information people have, the better decisions about their life they can make. And the more we can influence what happens in society, and the more we can influence what happens in governments, and the more we can hold on to our freedoms and our values, and create a situation where all of the people that live with us and around us are hopefully coming together, so that we can live a very meaningful life.
Absolutely. And look, I feel incredibly powerful after my stroke. I feel like I can also reach anything that comes to my mind. I mean, I'm still doing films, as I used to do films before my stroke, but I know that I can now do films, and now I own a sustainable housing company here in Morelia, and I am creating like different things at the same time, because the limitations of my mind went away. I mean, I was like, as I was saying, I was worried all the time, and oh my God, but what if this goes wrong? And oh my God, but what if, when you wake up in a hospital bed knowing that you were about to die, like this close to the cliff, I mean, you come back like, I mean, oh my God, I'm still gonna die. I mean, why not to give it a try to all the things that I was scared about? I'm trying to create a message, but with my life itself. I mean, by creating my projects, I'm creating 2 films now. One is fiction, and another one is a documentary film. But this documentary is not about violence, and it's not about bad things. I'm creating a documentary film. I would love to tell you a little bit more about this. It's a film that explores the theory that we as human beings, all of us as human beings, just by being alive, we have the huge power of decision, of choice. And we have the power of choice at every single second of our lives. And we have the power to choose if we react to situations in life from fear or from love. And you know the results. I mean, if you act from fear, will you have terrible life? You're worried, you're always mad at everyone because you are reacting from fear. You are scared, and that wouldn't allow you to live a pleasant and beautiful life as we can. And on the other hand, if you react from love, you will have such a beautiful life, because you will have beautiful relationships, you will have beautiful projects, you will have, but that's the main target of the documentary film, trying to tell everyone that it's only a choice that you can take to change and transform your entire life.
It's so interesting. Acting from fear is actually a really difficult thing to do, because I've done it before and I try not to do it as much as I used to. And I try to become aware of myself when I'm doing it, right? So acting from fear is you're using fear to motivate you because you're afraid of something. And you're doing most of that in your head. That's where you're creating the majority of the fear, and the action to take action on fear. And because of fear, you're taking action with your gut, and your gut is fearful. That's what's happening when you're taking action from love and you choose love. You're basically going to your heart. That's where the decision is being made. And
Exactly.
if you can choose love and go to your heart, you're making decisions that are best for you and best for the world. But there's difficult decisions to make that sometimes that are best for you and best for the world that other people are going to be upset about.
Yeah.
And that sometimes can cause fear for some people. And it's this loop that if you're just in it and you're not noticing it and you're not aware of it, you become all consumed by it, and your whole life is a reaction. None of your life becomes a conscious decision making, planned out process. It all becomes I'm responding to other elements around me, and none of it is about what I want or what I want to achieve or what I want to plan for or focus or work towards. And I think there you go. I think that's a beautiful story to tell people and to give them the opportunity to understand the difference between acting out of fear and acting out of love, and what's required. Acting out of love is not easy. What's required is to put yourself first and to put yourself in a situation where you have to now tackle some difficult things. And some of those things might be, when you act out of love, that might upset other people.
Absolutely. And there's some people that question themselves, like, why do these terrible things happen to me? I mean, and the meaning of this story I'm trying to create, it's that they 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 can change it. I mean, and it's a daily process where you have to recognize where are you reacting to life from. I have 5 characters in this documentary. They are all women, and they're all women that have been through very, very difficult situations in their lives, different kind of situations, all of them, and they all live in different countries. But they are women that choose not to play the victim and not to sit down to cry because of what they happened to themselves, but instead they choose to learn, grow, and became as a huge women or powerful women after the situation. So if they can, and if we could get up from the hospital bed and and do what we had to do to continue to our life, not only to continue to our lives, but improve our lives and to live the lives that we want to live. I mean, I think everybody can do it because we all have the power to choose.
I'm curious about the men. You say your documentary is about 5 women. Do men find it harder to go to this place of acting out of love instead of fear?
Amazing question. Nobody answered that. Nobody asked that before, but it's great. No, it's really casually that they were all 5 women. I didn't decide that they were going to be women. They just showed up when I mean, the first girl showed up and she motivated me to tell this story. But they then came the second one and the third one, and then I ended up having 5 women. And there's no reason of gender, it was just the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you that the only man figure or character that will probably not appear but participate in the story will be myself. I mean, I was able to see these characters, these women, I think, only because I went through a difficult situation by myself. So I have it like very clear in front of me. I have it very graphic in front of me. I had to take the decision when I was in a wheelchair after the accident. I was depressed. I was mad. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I was in my dark room. I wanted to, have contact with the world because I was mad at the world and at myself and at everybody. So it was a process, a complicated process, but suddenly something happened that made me realize that that was the only way that I wasn't going out of the situation I was stuck in. So I had to make this switch in my mindset, but I have it very clear in front of my mind. It was a switch in my mindset that allowed me to start eating a bunch of food, making exercise in the very first second in the morning until I was able to get up from the wheelchair. And if my mind was able to do that, I think everyone's mind is able to create the life they want to live and to get unstuck.
You know that dark space you were in where you didn't want to see anyone, talk to anyone, be around anyone. Did you know that that was necessary for your next phase, or were you there unwillingly, worried about being so withdrawn and in such a terrible state? For me, when I was in that dark stages, initially I didn't realize that it was necessary for me to be there because there was something to learn there. And at the beginning, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. I couldn't do it. Not that I enjoyed it later, but later I took a different mindset to it. It was about, okay, this is part of the cycle. It's part of the down part of the cycle. If I stay there for a little while and I allow it to go through the cycle and pass by itself, I'm going to be out of it soon and I'll learn something. And usually when I did that, I was out of it quicker and I learned something sooner. When you were in that dark time, how did you respond to that? Like, were you okay to be there? Did you feel okay being there? Or was it something that you needed to, shift?
I was living a nightmare. I had this huge battle inside my head. I'm not gonna tell you, never happened through my mind the word suicide. Never. I mean, but I was really having a terrible time, and it was unbearable, the situation in my head, because I was like, I was convinced that my life was over, that my world fell apart, that I mean, I was in a very dark place, as you were saying. But I think the community around me, my family, my friends, they never allowed me to go deeper in that dark hole. And that energy around me made me realize that I wasn't alone, that there was an energy full of love surrounding me, and that I could take advantage of that to leave that dark place where I was. So there was a hit. Something hit me one day, and it was like, Rodrigo, stand up. I mean, you can't get loose in this thing because you can keep digging.
Yeah. And there's something that hit you. Do you know what it is? Can you describe it?
It's very difficult. I haven't been able to describe it yet. I keep working on that, but there was a clear vision, as I told you right now. There was a very clear vision that dark place would only take me deeper. I mean, that if I wouldn't take this switch, I mean, this switch of mindset, I would probably end up in a very, very, very bad place.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of people who recognize what you're saying. Maybe they're in that situation right now, and maybe they're having a moment where they're about to switch over from one way to the other way. I think it's very valuable to do that and to just get curious about it. So for me, what I tried to do, what I learned after I did a lot of personal development training, what I learned was that I could get curious about what I was experiencing rather than overthink it and worry about it. I could just ask different questions about it. Something like, why am I in this situation? Or what can I learn from this? Or how long is this going to last? Or instead of, I hate being here, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this. It's more empowering to just ask questions out of curiosity than make statements of fact, like, I hate this, I don't want to be this is too hard. That might be the case, but for me, I think it was better that I just became curious about, here's somewhere I've never been before. This is interesting. Wow, I wonder what I'm going to learn from this. So that's kind of the approach that I took, and it didn't work straight away. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't good at it all the time, but I have got a bit of a habit now, and I can now go through the process of being in a tough time and then just kind of sitting in it for a little bit and getting comfortable being uncomfortable and not minding that I'm uncomfortable,
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
I was thinking about something, listening to you. Probably less than a year after my stroke, I found out that a friend of the family went through a similar situation, exact same situation, brain hemorrhage. And my first instinct reaction, it was like, please take me right now to where she is. I mean, like, in this moment, I have to be by her side, because I know how dark it will get for her right now. And it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, if someone would tell me, the process and the experience, and that the world wouldn't completely fall, it would be a lot easier for me. And so I went there, and I was able to talk to her in firsthand right after her accident. I mean, when she was awake, obviously. And I spent it like a whole day just speaking with her, trying to calm her down, and letting her know that the world would still go around, and and her life wouldn't end at that moment.
Yeah. And it's possible to live a really fulfilled life, even if you have serious visible or invisible disabilities. It's really possible. We see it all the time. That's the Paralympics, full of people who have physical disabilities that are living their best life they can possibly live, and they're overcoming a lot of difficult times. And I've had so many people on this podcast that are going through things that I can't imagine because I've never had them, vision problems and hearing problems and all sorts of issues. And yet they're still doing amazing things. They're still willing to come onto a podcast. They're still willing to, they're raising their family still somehow. Some of them have got 1 child, some have got 3 children. They're still doing all the things that we all do. They just go about it a different way. And of course, they would prefer not to be in that situation where they're doing all those things after a stroke. But a lot of those people are not letting what the stroke did to them or caused to them get in the way of living a full life. Of course, they do need to do things differently, right? So they need to, when they're tired, they need to rest now. They need to not take on too many things. They need to be able to speak out and say, I'm tired, I can't do this. They need to be able to do things that they love and brings joy to their lives, so that they're experiencing some joy and some perhaps passion projects. They need to do all sorts of things. What I find is a lot of people after the stroke, they get creative and they find some way to get some creative energy together and to express themselves in a way that perhaps they haven't expressed themselves before. And that's me. That's classic me. I never knew about podcasts. I never knew about anything before the stroke, and all of a sudden now, I'm a podcaster. I've done 200 episodes, and I'm talking on a topic I never knew about or never would have talked about before. But through my own experience and through the amazing community, as soon as I ask them, would you like to be on my podcast? Everyone says yes. Through that, we can do this thing that I never in 100 years would have done if it wasn't for what I went through. It's just unbelievable. And I'm talking to somebody in Mexico now, it's amazing.
That's amazing. Congratulations for having that mindset, because also in the other hand, you probably know this well. There's this beautiful side where people come up and they get up from the circumstances, and they grew up and they get better and they get creative. But there's also the other hand, and that's why I found really, really helpful your podcast, and I'm gonna share it with as many people as I can, because I've seen in this road, I've seen so many people sitting down, crying their losses and their shames and their victim roles, where, oh no, this happened to me. My whole life is, down. Off. And I was like, dude, we've been through the same thing. What's making you sitting down on a wheelchair to cry for your situation, and the rest of us fighting to get back our lives and to improve even better lives? There's the two perspectives, as we were saying, and you have always two choices.
Yeah, that's exactly what the podcast is about. I was talking about it yesterday to a friend of mine. Is the 200 people or more that have been on the podcast already, they are the ones that are like us. They're the ones that have moved beyond that really terrible stage, and they are attempting to learn something and share something from what they've learned. Did you need to head out for a minute? Do you need to check something?
No, don't worry.
Yeah. And as a result of that, what I am very aware of is there's at least another 200 people in the world that are listening to this podcast that are perhaps not at the stage that we are. And what I didn't have when I was going through the tough times at the beginning 10 years ago, I didn't have a podcast that I could tune into and listen to. There was none of that stuff. So what I'm hoping that the podcast is doing is it's finding those people, and they are coming to our stage a little bit quicker than they would have if they didn't find it.
Absolutely. And I think it's an amazing thing, an amazing labor. Really, thank you for doing this, because I would love to have had this earlier. I'm on a couple of communities on Facebook or Instagram where, stroke survivors, or in Spanish as well. And you can see these two poles. People fighting, making exercise, creating, working, surviving. And there's always these stories like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? My life is over. I can do it. So we have a responsibility, you and I, and the people who were able to not only survive, but survive with a different mindset, and to be able to build new things. And we need to share this with the people, because it will make their road a lot easier than usual.
In the English world, I'm noticing that there are more and more people coming online now presenting podcasts in this space, and that's awesome. That's amazing, because that means that they're going to reach so many people. In the Spanish speaking world, are there a lot of is there a lot of content? Is there places where people that only speak Spanish can go to listen to podcasts and that type of thing about stroke recovery?
I haven't researched in the podcast area, but there is a lot of information reading in articles and communities. So I was mentioning groups in Facebook in Spanish, because there's, in my case, Mexico and Latin America are white. I mean, it's like huge amount of people, and yes, there's a lot of information. Probably there's a little bit more in English, but I have found a lot of information in Spanish, and it would be a good thing to research and to try to help to increase the community, about maybe a podcast in Spanish, or maybe, I don't know. Do you see yourself like making your content, I know, subtitles, or or translated or something like that?
It would be lovely.
Because it would increase your your community.
Yeah, it's such a massive job, as you know. Producing, recording, editing a podcast is such a massive job. For me, I need help to do it all. So what we do is we record an episode. It takes usually about an hour, and then I edit it, and then I have somebody transcribe it into English only, and those subtitles go onto the YouTube version of the podcast. And then if somebody wants to get the transcription, they can go to the website, recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes, and they can click on the podcast episode that they choose. And then at the top, they can actually see the entire transcription of the entire interview and download a PDF version of it if they want.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I can, and that takes about 8 or 9 hours per episode to do. And I have somebody helping me doing that, right? So if I had to do it in another language, which I have no clue about, I don't understand Spanish. If I had to do it in another language, it's very resource heavy. So unless perhaps there's somebody out there who is Spanish speaking and English speaking and is happy to volunteer and do that for me, that would be fantastic. But at the moment, it's really difficult to do. And I think I felt like it was really important to at least have the English transcription, because I know that people learn and listen in different ways. So some people enjoy the video. That's why it goes to YouTube. Some people enjoy listening in the car or on the train or wherever they are. That's why I put it on audio. And then some people, and I do sometimes, I like to print out things on PDF and circle things that I like. Sometimes I put that on my bookshelf, a PDF that I've printed. So I thought that it was necessary to have at least 3 ways to consume it differently, but never considered another language.
I was just thinking about it because probably, I mean, I'm gonna do some research about if there's someone making a podcast about these issues in Spanish, and there would probably be some kind of collaboration. But I just imagining this in my head, and I would let you know if that happens sometime.
Yeah, that will be fine. That will be perfectly fine. So how long were you in rehabilitation for and doing all the recovery stuff after your stroke?
Okay, it was I spent 6 months on a wheelchair after the stroke. Then I was able to get up, and I started walking with I don't know how you say muletas, with
Like
this thing that help, not one stick but 2 sticks, one on each side.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah, some kind of like a cane or something.
And then I started walking with a stick, and then I decided to take the stick away. Only it was a decision of myself, because I realized that I was hanging myself into the stick, all the the weight of my body. So I decided to drop it, and when I started walking by myself, I started also making a little exercise, like jogging a little bit. Then I started jumping in the pool, and I started making some little movements, to swim. It was, I think it was about an intense 1 year, like very, very, very intense. But then I kept, I mean, till today, keep doing rehab almost every day. I mean, the first years, always with probably in a clinic and with specialist people and trainers and therapists. But then I learned so much from the years, from taking a lot of therapies and different techniques, that I'm now able to do my rehab and my exercises and my therapy every day by myself. And I still go to the pool, and I still go jogging a little bit, and I do a little Pilates, and I do a little yoga, and I have tried pretty much everything. It happened a funny story when I used to live in Madrid 10 years ago, before my accident. And my best friend, when I was living in Madrid, he was a guy from Chile, and he was studying he was a doctor, well, a master in physiotherapy, neuroscience therapy. And it was very funny, because at that moment we didn't realize that I was going to need that specialty that he was studying, right? Then I came back to Mexico, and he went back to Chile. And when I had my stroke, when I was able to be independent again, after a lot of rehab, I took a trip to Chile, and I was on a workshop with him, and that he created. He and a yoga teacher created a workshop for me, and we created this thing that was called urban therapy. We went to travel through South America, and we were, jump in a plane, jump in a boat, jump in a taxi, run to get the bus, and then he was correcting every single one of my movements, but on the road.
Wow.
And I loved it, like urban therapy, we name it.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, there's always a way, to get up, to recover, to work, to create your life. It's only if you're willing to do what it takes to get up. I mean, I've been reading a lot, coaching and self-awareness and self-growth since my accident, and it gets me to a point where I now feel unbreakable. I mean, I feel like I can actually create and reach everything I want and everything that happens through my mind.
Yeah, it's true. You can. I mean, if people have built aeroplanes and created cars and built roads and built massive buildings and bridges and everything like that, if people have done all of that stuff, well, there's no reason why we can't do something that's smaller scale than that, and bring, and that's what that demonstrates, though, is that nobody can build the airplane on their own. They need a team of people, specialists in many, many different fields, to create that possible, to bring that airplane into a situation where it's possible to fly, and to create that bridge to go 2 kilometers or 10 miles over water. You have to bring people together. You have to create a community and share the skills that other people have that you don't have. And this is a collaboration. The whole thing is a collaboration. Doing it on your own is not possible. You have to collaborate with other people, offer them something that you can, and have the ability to accept something that they are offering you, and not to be embarrassed or ashamed that you have to accept some help, or that that you don't know everything and you don't have all the solutions. You never will have. There's too many things to know. There's no way we're going to know them all. We need to ask people for help and collaborate, and that's, together we can achieve a lot more. But definitely in the mind is where our biggest weaknesses are. In the mind is where our biggest obstacles are. If we can focus the mind on solutions rather than problems, you will get more solutions. If you focus on problems, you will get more problems.
Absolutely, and in every area of our lives. I mean, there is this amazing, I love it, this North American saying, people in the US, they say this phrase that I love, that is, the angrier I am, the more assholes I meet. I mean, if you are concentrated, in this bad mood, and this, of course, bad things will happen to you all day long. I mean, and this is what you were just saying. I mean, if you can't achieve something because it's too big, you only have to get a team and the resources you have to, to put together to create it. But the important thing is, will you allow yourself to, to put the first step on the direction that you want to go? Because that's where everything starts. Or you keep in the fear that you won't be able to achieve it, and that everything will go wrong, and you don't start anything, never.
Yeah, I completely agree. So in Mexico, what's the medical system like there? Is it, I know in America it's a decent medical system, but they have some challenges with a lot of people. If you don't have insurance, you don't get good support. You have to pay a lot of money to become healthy, and you leave with a debt. In Australia, our medical system is paid by the government through our taxes, but it's all done by the government. What's it like in Mexico? How does the medical system work there?
Not that good. In my particular case, I wasn't, I didn't have an insurance at the moment, so my family had to, to pay for everything, and it was very expensive. Thank God, my brothers and my family got together, and they were able to, to went through the situation and to kept me alive. It sounds hard, but it was like that. There's many people that can't have what I had, especially with private doctors, private hospital, because when my accident happened, my friends like took me to a public hospital that was close from where we are, and they kept me on a waiting floor for for so many hours. I spent 36 hours with my brain hemorrhage in the hospital, and they didn't know what to do until I mean, when the situation was coming like really worrying. My brother traveled from a different city, and he moved everything he needed to move, to to put me in a private hospital and get me a private doctor, and they saved my life that way, because I have no idea what would happen if my family wouldn't have put the resources and the energy and the effort to keep me alive. I wouldn't be here talking with you right now. That's simple. And there's a public health system, but it's not that efficient, and also not everybody have access to it. I mean, it's not universal. So there's this new government. Well, not that new. It's for 4 years now, but and it's kind of, I'm not gonna get political, but it's kind of a new regime here in Mexico. We've been through probably 80 years of the same regime or political system, that it's kind of right wing, and it was a lot of corruption, a lot of bad people doing bad things in the government, and we are very used to it. I mean, all my life has been like that, until I'm not sure, because it's working on it right now, and I'm not sure if this government is going to change it. But I think they are trying to change things. They are trying to break corruption, like, totally, and they are trying to care more for the people, and for the people who have less money, and not trying to protect corporates, and to allow them not to pay taxes just because they are friends with the politicians. And so I'm trying to trust that things are changing a little bit right now, and they are putting an effort on making universal health system free for everyone. And I hope they can make it. I mean, you can change the whole thing in 3 or 6 years because it's been bad for 80. But I hope that that could change a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand how difficult it can be. So when do you expect your current project that you're working on to be complete and available for people to view, the documentary that you're doing?
I hope it can see the light next year because it's been on my head for more than a year now. But I'm working also on a look. I'm gonna show you real quickly. This house where I am now, I built it. This is the one of my sustainable housing projects.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the view. Look at the view.
Aha! Wow. Yes.
And these are houses with low impact, completely solar powered, energy solar powered, and there's many some factors that make them more sustainable than a regular house.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a huge success. This small project. It was like my pilot, to see if there were clients. And I was during construction, and it was sold out already. So there's a lot of people who wants this kind of houses. So I'm started now a project that it's 10 times bigger. Now I'm building 100 houses. So that have delayed a little bit my documentary film, but I'm committed to finish script this year and probably 50% of footage to be able to next year release it if possible.
Fantastic, man. Well done. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I look forward to following your growth and your path, man. It's really lovely to hear from you and to get somebody reach out from Mexico. You're the first person in Mexico to contact me to be on the podcast. So it's really amazing. I really am grateful.
Thank you for the time. I'm grateful too. I mean, it's very fulfilling, to have these conversations. You look like an amazing person, like very connected and conscious. And I thank you for the time and for the sharing, the energy. And let's keep in touch. I'll keep you posted on the documentary. And if I find someone who could be a good deal for a collaboration with a Spanish podcast about the related topics, it would be amazing to let you know.
Thanks, Rodrigo.
Thank you for your time.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. Rodrigo is an amazing guest. He's doing great things, and he's an example of how much you can do and achieve after stroke. Now, he's been on the journey for 10 years, similar to me, but that doesn't mean anything. It means that you can work towards your goal and you can move towards achieving something every single day just by focusing on solutions rather than problems. To learn more about my guests, including the links to find them on social media, to download a full transcript of the entire interview, please go to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes. If you would like to support this podcast, the best way to do it is to leave a 5-star review and a few words about what the show means to you on iTunes and on Spotify. If you are watching on YouTube, comment below the video. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the notifications bell so that you can get notifications of future episodes as they become available. Sharing the show with family and friends on social media will make it possible for people who may need this type of content to find it easier, and that may make a massive difference to someone that is on the road to recovery after their own experience with stroke. Thanks so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamas. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.